just doing it because it was an error. We gotta get it corrected. Was an error? The numbers in the.
That part is stuck on him. We need,
Good to know.
want it to go to home.
I'm like,
Good. Good.
hammer.
Hammer, brother.
Go back and forth between.
Congratulations.
I'm gonna put it on the podium and see what it does. All right, let's get this baby going.
There it goes. All right.
That's what we
Well,
want.
we don't want both
Don't want-
cameras right there.
Didn't get us back.
But I heard
The
you.
original, the encroachment agreement with DOT goes back to
I can
DOT,
do that. I
and they're
won't
gonna
have to
record
have an
that with
extra
the registry
stipend
deeds.
for chapel.
You just need to do a copy
keeps up.
with these.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be
I'll
original.
get it, I'll take a Jolly Rancher.
You heard us.
She's got to sign.
Take what you need. You moving in?
We're gonna have to get into the folding money. Got a complaint the Jolly Ranchers is sticky.
I've never had two cameras up here before.
Up on there? Huh.
I don't know why.
Let me get a camera set up. Wonder if maybe there's a way to end this.
Yeah. I guess it really matters, but let me put it back on home.
Got it. There you go. Oh, I guess it's showing that there's one that's already.
Sean Kip is from India. Mine was the sixth.
I didn't see
See,
that.
you're going in a good month.
See, it's not moved.
It's still podium.
I tell you what, we ain't gonna
Well, it
TikTok.
came
It's
down
too
the mountain.
Evening.
How are you?
I'm here for most of the week.
Really? Has that been painful?
Call to order, please. Today is August the 11th, 2022, Thursday. This is the normal monthly Town Hall Council meeting. We will first begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. This evening, our Honorable Councilman Jones is going to give us our invocation. If y'all would bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, we come before you and we ask that you lead, guide, and direct us. You be with each citizen out there. We thank you for your many blessings and help us to be truly grateful. We ask that you give this council wisdom to render decisions on the behalf of the citizens and in particular to be good stewards of the resources that have been provided to us for that purpose. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I'd like to take a minute to reintroduce our new deputy clerk, Robbie Wagner, and wish him a very big birthday. Happy birthday, Robbie. I'd also like to give a shout out to our Mayor Pro Tem, who acquired for us a nice little grant from Guilford County for monies that we will have to encumber to better our town and benefit our citizens. Thank you, Derek.
Well,
Good job, Eric.
thank you, Mike, but, you know, a lot of people, a lot of town councils deserve credit. I think we had some worthy projects to put forward to the county, and certainly grateful for the grant. And proud that our projects did get, of all municipalities, we were 100% funded for our request. A lot of good projects from other municipalities that were, you know, partially funded, and wish everybody the best. Now the hard work starts.
Derek did an outstanding job in the presentation. I happened to be with him. So, review and adopt the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an addition to the agenda.
Go right ahead, please, sir.
That would be to add a discussion about servicing our septic systems and pumping the tanks as necessary. We can put that wherever you want to.
Let's,
14.
let's go right above 14,
Make it 13B.
13A,
Excuse me,
right?
13,
13A.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, I also have a request for an addition.
Yes, sir.
Right under town park improvement, I was gonna talk about that one, so I'd also like to talk about water workshop meetings.
12A.
Yeah, water workshop meetings.
Okay, anything else? Any other changes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda with those two changes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye. I move that we approve the minutes from June 21st, 2022, special call town council meeting.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Public safety reports. Our fire chief, Todd? Good evening.
Evening, Todd.
So for July, that starts a new year for us. We ran a total of 88 calls for the month. 46 were medical related, 15 were fire related, and 27 other related. So we ended our previous year on June the 30th, and for that year, we ran 1,060 calls during the year. So busy year, and we continue to see it get busier and busier.
Thanks for keeping us safe.
Hey, it's actually an honor and a privilege to be able to serve in a community that you've grown up in. You know so many people, and you can make a difference. You have that opportunity. So it's and we got very good folks that are out there protecting, and we're very fortunate in that aspect. So my message is one that a lot of times we give it to our children, but we as adults don't think about it. I know we've all heard about stop, drop, and roll for years and years and years. And it's taught in schools, and about every third year, we go over it, especially with the smaller kids, to remind them that. But it can also affect adults as well. You know, you could be doing anything in your clothes, catch fire or something happen, and just remember the things that we teach our children, we can do for ourselves. One of the other things that we teach children that we need to, as adults, see is a home escape plan. And that's very, very important, because when you're putting that together, when you're teaching the children, we should learn something with them, and that's to make sure that we know where to go as well as them, and that saves lives. We reiterate to everybody, do not go back in the house, okay? Once you're outside, please stay outside. And I know that's hard to do if you have a loved one or something inside, and certainly I would not stand here and tell you that I would not do that myself, but you know, that's the recommendation. And the other big thing is to have a gathering point, and that's very, very important for you for accountability purposes, as well as first responders when they get there, whether it be police, fire, EMS, because if it is an emergency, then you can tell them everybody's accounted for. You take fire, for example, and I use us, that is very important in the middle of the night or something. If we know everybody's out of the house, this is gonna sound bad, please don't take it, but as long as you and your family's okay, houses can be rebuilt. We wanna make sure that you're taken care of, and your safety, your rescue is our first option. So we just put those things out there as a reminder. We teach them to the children, but sometimes it's good for us to have it in our thought process and our everyday lives. So, yeah, thank you, and hope everybody has a safe week.
Thanks.
Todd, would you give us your email, not your email, but your website? What is the website again?
It's StokesdaleFire.com.
Easy enough. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Since we no longer have a representative from the sheriff's office here on a regular basis, if I could just take a minute and speak on the public safety behalf on that end.
Please?
I saw on social media this afternoon that a trailer from Summit Church was stolen. I just wanted to remind everybody that if trailers, if you have a trailer sitting out on the edge of your property that can be seen from the road, then it's going to get stolen. We are too close to the Rockingham line that people will come down here and get it, and they'll go crack across the line. And just want to make everybody aware to protect your own property, make sure your lawnmowers are not out in the open, and those are the easiest things that are stolen, lawnmowers and trailers, because they're easy, they're quick, and they're not tracked for the most part. Serial numbers are just not that prevalent on those things, and they're not tracked. So just want to make everybody aware of that, to make sure your property is secure. And on the Nextdoor app, there's a picture of the Summit trailer. If anybody sees it, it's just a white enclosed trailer with a cross on it. If anybody sees it, call the sheriff's office.
Where was it taken from?
From their church in Oak Ridge.
Oh, man.
So,
All right. Thank you. Administrative reports. Our interim town clerk.
This month, we had 7 meters installed, 24 applications of transfer for service, 53 meters and applications put on hold for builders, 55 meters are in stock, 699 water bills were sent out, 24 work orders have been prepared, and 43 811s have been called in. This month's been busy working with our new deputy clerk, Mr. Wagner. We've gone over a lot of clerk items, but he's also spent some time with Priscilla learning some of the water payments and sort of things. That we've doing our deposits and that sort of things, that we are very glad and lucky to have him. Coming up is our copier lease here at Town Hall. It runs out September 22nd. We have heard 2 proposals from 2 different companies, Gray and Creech, which has the copier we have now. They brought a proposal yesterday, and Coeco, which is Carolina Office Equipment, brought one in last week. So we'll be looking at those, and we'll be bringing that to you all for a vote to either extend the lease we have or a new machine at your September meeting. We've been working on a subdivision checklist. I've worked with Councilman Jones. I have spent some time with a couple of the engineers that we have are working on projects with. Spent some time with Gene and Aaron with Hazen and Sawyer, trying to put a pretty comprehensive subdivision checklist on these water extensions. Mr. Jones asked me to work on an emergency contact list, so I've been working with that. It's not been updated in quite a while. With the developers, Blacksmith subdivision, we approved last month a development agreement with them. That was done. Mr. Medlin finished that up for us, and so we're getting that in the works. And also North Ridge, they have applied for their finals. So we'll be looking at that. Aaron has already been out and done some inspections there, so we're working with them to get that done. The vault that the town of Carnersville graciously donated has been brought into the building, and we received it on June 19th. Minute books are in place. It's not lockable at this time, but we're working on that as well. You contracted 2 months ago with a contractor to help us prepare some minutes. Another set of minutes for September have been sent to him, and he was just not able to get them to me for this agenda packet. So they'll hopefully have 2 sets on your next agenda. Mr. Wagner has been working with Mayor Pro Tem Foy on the Park Improvement Committee. He's getting up to speed on that and getting a lot of experience there. He and Kim, as you know, we have joined the State and Local Government Retirement Commission. That took effect July 1st. All the paperwork and so forth had to be in by August 1st. And Mr. Wagner and Ms. Thacker both have gotten that all set up for us. And I think Mr. Wagner's been working with Mr. Foy on some Part F grant projects too. So that's all I have.
If we get the minutes for September, how many does that leave outstanding?
We still need October, November, and then February of this year. That was
Okay.
the long meeting,
Okay.
and I think we'll be caught up.
How long is it taking him to do one?
He billed us for 3 hours last time.
Okay, okay, good, thank you.
Ms. Martin, I believe our contract with Spectrum might be coming to a close sometime later this year.
Okay?
If you
Maybe.
could send that to us, please, and when that ends, that's something I'll be very interested in.
Planning Board, we have nothing today, this evening. Events Committee, Mr. Foy?
Yeah, our parade, I believe it's Saturday, the 10th of December. We look forward to it.
As do we. Property Committee, Mr. Rigsby?
Nothing at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
haven't had a chance to converse with any property committee members. So far as the update for the continuing saga of the drink machine in the park, this has entertained a number of our citizens, and it is what it is. I noticed that someone has unlocked it, and it's not locked now, but the latch is screwed up, screwed shut. So I unscrewed it and checked, the inventory's gone out of it, and there's no money in it. There's still been no communication to the town of Stokesdale, to the best of my knowledge, and that's where we stand with that project.
Okay.
Mr. Madeline, what can we do with that thing? Can we surplus property it, or, because we need to be done with this?
I think we probably would need to, for me to put in writing, to the company to pick it up, or else we're gonna dispose of it and give them a time frame. The only thing we don't want is for them to have a claim back on us for, injury to their personal, property, so.
Well, can we do that? We need a vote? I mean, we need to just go on, it don't need to come up anymore.
I'd like to give it another month, hoping that somebody is just slow getting out to pick it up, so we don't spend the attorney time. It's taped off, sitting there, it's unplugged. I mean, that would be my preference, but I'm flexible.
I mean, that's fine, but next month, let's take care of it. That's fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah, put that on the agenda for next month, if you would. Financials, Ms. Thacker?
Good evening, everyone. Okay, we will start with the general fund. With the Bank of Oak Ridge checking, we have $23,278.48. Our Bank of Oak Ridge CDARS, we have $2,560,740.76. Regular checking with Fidelity Bank, $277,011.29. Petty cash is $150. And this month, with the general fund, we have started the new fiscal year for the 22-23 year. Our shared overhead expense for July 31st is $12,956.21, and that is also on our accounts receivable. Gary's salary, which is our water guy, his salary is also a receivable due from the water enterprise account to the general fund, and that amount for the month of July was $714.81. As we did say, Dale did go over it, but beginning July 1, the town of Stokesdale began contributing to the North Carolina Retirement Fund for full-time employees. The month of July, the town of Stokesdale alone contributed to the employees $630.63. And that's for the month of July for the general fund. And if council did see, as far as the budget versus actual, I did change the format on the spreadsheet. I'm very pleased with it. It lets us know the actual, the budget, if over or under the budget, and the actual percent of the budget that we have used, and that will be for the month end, each month that you receive that. So we'll move over to the water enterprise account. In the Bank of Oak Ridge for the CDRs, we have $500,001.38. The capital reserve fund is $178,967.04. Our Fidelity checking is $633,144.41. The North Carolina Management Fund is $523,994.85. Our regular savings is $45,053.27. Our accounts receivable for water sales is $37,102.23. Also, for the water enterprise, our accounts payable is just the opposite. The shared overhead expense, just like we said earlier, was $12,956.21. That is due to the general fund from the water enterprise account. Gary's salary of $714.81. So the total that the water enterprise owes the general fund is $13,671.02. The capital reserve for the month of July, the water enterprise fund received $5,250 in water capacity fees for the month of July. And that is all that I have for the general fund and the water enterprise account.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Thacker, I got a question. Under the checks and debits for the Water Enterprise Fund, there's not a page number, but on about July the 11th of 2022, there's an expense for $3,000. It's not clear to me where that went. You see above it, there's a bill payment, check number 5698, Town of Stokesdale, and in a description that states it was voided.
Yes.
So does that $3,000 have anything to do with that?
No, sir. I can tell you. Give me 1 second and I'll get to that. That does not have anything to do with the Town of Stokesdale check, that check above it. The check above it that was voided was actually, the shared overhead expense when I was closing out June 30th, fiscal year '22. And when I went back to balance, I needed to do a few adjustments, and I had already written the check, unfortunately, so I voided that check out. That's the check above that you see voided, but that has nothing to do with the other. But I'm getting ready to tell you what that check is. Give me just a second. That is the transfer, and I apologize for that, because I did not notate that on there. On 7/11, is that my date? Yes, 7/11, there was $3,000 that was transferred for June 30th, '22, and that was the water capacity fees for the month of June, and it was transferred July 11th. But I will
Okay.
notate that on here.
It was transferred to the checking account where we house the
It was transferred to the capital reserve fund.
capital reserve fund,
Yes.
which falls under the umbrella of the water enterprise fund.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm sorry I did not notate that. Normally, I'm pretty good about notating, and I apologize for that.
Okay, and one other thing is, I know who you're talking about when you say Gary, our water guy, but just to further identify him, he's our operator responsible in charge for those in the audience or citizens that may be listening, et cetera.
And then, Kim, we had some corrections for the budget message.
Yes, we did. I wasn't sure if you want me to do that now, or,
I do.
okay. Bear with, Mr. Jones, did you have any more questions for me?
Not for the moment, thank you.
Okay. All right. Council, if you will please look in your packet, you will find, hold on, I've got to find mine somewhere in here. Okay, here it is. we received an email from, first of all, I would like to thank Steve Mann for catching some errors that were in the budget message. I always feel it is important that citizens are keeping their eye on us, just to keep us straight up here. And also, the notes that, the changes that you see in the budget message, I have highlighted. And please note that the changes communicated are strictly related to the budget message. They are not the actual budget that was adopted from council on June 2022, in June 2022. At the beginning, we did change because it is not any longer Highway 220, it is now Interstate 73. So we figured while we were making a few changes, we might as well just tidy it up that way as well. Page 2, under revenues, where's my email from Mr. Mann? Over here somewhere. You'll see under the general revenue for the fiscal year 22-23, I did change the line where it says are estimated at $794,737.50. The town receives $158,690.11 from the Water Enterprise Fund as a reimbursement for shared expense paid from the town's general fund. In the same paragraph down below, I did add, the town has been awarded funds from a federal grant from the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, also known as the American Rescue Plan, ARP, in the amount of $362,737.50. Below there, I have also, under expenditures, general fund expenditures for fiscal year 22-23 are budgeted to be $953,427.61. The general fund revenue of $794,737.50, coupled with the reimbursement of $158,690.11 from the Water Enterprise Fund for shared expenses paid in full for the general fund, represent a balanced general fund budget for fiscal year 22-23. On page 3, because they have continued, I did strike, the House bill. Oh my gosh, sorry, Siri's trying to talk to me. The House bill, I did have listed as 436, that's actually 1136, so that's been corrected as well. There was a statement that said legislation is currently being discussed which would delay the town's requirement to encumber or spend these funds until July 2023. I'm requesting to have this statement removed because they have continued that.
Any discussion?
No,
Do we need a motion to accept these corrections, or is this administrative in nature?
well, I'm going to make a motion to update our budget message because it was incorrect. However, there's no modifications or changes to the budgets we adopted. This is just simply correcting some things that were needed to be corrected, and so I want to make a motion that we adopt this revised budget message and also have it on the town's website tomorrow.
And I would like to second that motion with the stipulation that we, down at the bottom, somewhere in the corner, we specify that it was updated, corrected as effective date today, I guess. So if a citizen gets in their hands both copies, they'll be able to make some sense out of it.
Okay.
We acting proper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I accept him as part of that motion.
Any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby? Aye. Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landry? Aye. Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. Dale, I'm going to sign this right now.
Well, are we gonna leave it?
Say again?
Do you have the, you don't have a clean copy?
Yeah.
I need a clean copy of it.
I have a clean copy.
No, these are highlighted.
Mike, those are,
Those
have
highlights.
strike-throughs.
I got you.
Yeah,
Red.
Sorry about that.
yeah, I need to get it cleaned up for you.
I don't know
That was
what,
just so
I don't know what clean is, so, you know. That was a waste of a signature. Okay.
I'd croak with that format.
All right, we're going to open the floor for citizens' comments. I have with us Mr. Derek Mobley. I believe he is a candidate for the county commissioners.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Mobley, you might need to turn that on. Our apologies.
I did receive a text from someone listening that said they could not hear. We don't know if the batteries need changing or,
Up there?
yes, just up there.
Okay.
That looks better. There we go.
There it is.
Hey, there we go.
All right. So again, thank you for your time. I am Derek Mobley. I am your Democratic candidate for County Commissioner here in District 3. I just want to share a little bit about myself. So I'm from a small town called Tyro, which is not too far away in Davidson County. I've lived here in Guilford County for a little over 12 years. I have a wife and 2 children. My son's about to start the public schools down here at E.P. Pierce. And, one of the reasons I really want to run is, I moved here because I was convinced it was a great community in the Triad, which I love. And over the past couple years, I've become a little bit concerned about our trajectory. And I've never been one to sit on my hands, so I figured one of the ways I could make the most difference is to, get involved in local government. And some of the things I'd like to do, some of the things I've noticed with our public school systems, they need a lot more care and maintenance. As you guys have noticed, we did pass a bond here not too long ago. Again, one of my biggest concerns is that money is not going to go far enough, especially here in the Northwest. We need a lot of work on our trailers, on our middle school. So I just want to make sure that those things happen. And again, just a little bit about my background. So I'm in banking, so I've been in private business for the better part of a decade. So I'm used to making sure that we execute on projects on time and on budget without pointing fingers. So that's what I want to see happen. 2 of the other priorities that I have are around law enforcement. So I definitely want to work with the sheriff to make sure that we have a good work environment and that people are satisfied here, that we're not losing officers. Same thing for the EMS. We want to make sure that they have a positive work environment. We're not losing them to other counties. And then, last but certainly not least is budgetary wise. Nobody likes to talk about taxes, but we know they're a necessity. I'm in favor of rate neutral budgets, not necessarily revenue neutral, because one of our biggest expenses is personnel, and personnel costs tend to go up, not down. So I just feel like from a realistic standpoint, from where we are, where we expect wages to go, I think that the rate neutral budgets are the way to go. Another issue that I know is really important to you guys, hopefully I don't run out of time here, is what do we do about the sales taxes? I know you guys are getting a little bit shortchanged when it comes to that, and I've asked my representative Ashton Clemens to take a look into it. And you may not know this, but there are, out of over 500 towns, there's only 5 towns in the state of North Carolina that don't have a property tax and are in a county that uses the ad valorem sales tax method. Am I out of time?
No, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
Didn't cut you off.
I didn't know how hard the rules here were.
Didn't cut
yeah.
you off.
So, and Stokesdale is probably the largest town, so if you guys feel like you're in a unique position here, you definitely are. And so just a couple of options I've thought to deal with that. We could try to go to per capita. The issue with that at the county level is they're going to take a revenue hit at a time when, again, we need to pay for this bond. So that may be a challenge, but 3 other options that have been brought up is, one may have come from the mayor here, I read it in the paper, is when you have a unique situation like that, you can, we could change the legislation to put a floor on the amount of revenue that's dealt out. You could maybe have an amount per citizen. The second piece is, since we know what's going on whenever
We're sorry about this.
no,
Derek.
it's fine, it's fine.
We need money to buy another microphone.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Since we know this is happening, we can make that a priority, when we're planning our budgets or looking for requests. And then, so, last but certainly not least, you guys know the county has been trying to pass a sales tax increase for a long time, which I imagine you guys care very little about because you're not seeing any of that money. So, you know, if we could structure something, if that comes up again, where the sales tax increase is paired with a switch in the property tax allocation method, or in the sales tax allocation method, maybe we could get some more backing from the municipalities and make that more realistic. So those are three things that I would like to work on, you know, for you guys specifically. Yes. And yes, I think that's all I got.
Thank you very much.
I'll have a seat. I appreciate your time. Again, Derek Mobley, County.
I believe we have some questions.
Do you mind if I ask, or have a statement? If you could, you know, if you're elected, and I certainly wish you well, and thank you for running. That takes a lot of courage and your commitment to serving us all. If you could, you know, about the property tax, maybe look into, I believe Lenore is it Caldwell County? Help me out. Okay, Caldwell County. They have an interesting arrangement with the towns. The county collects sales tax on an ad valorem basis, but they have a interlocal agreement between small towns as part of a development program for these small towns, where I believe they still distribute money to these small towns. And there's a town in roughly of a population of about 4,000, and I don't have the name of it. I've talked to their finance officer, but they've been able to avoid a property tax, specifically thanks to this interlocal agreement where I believe they get about $400,000 in revenue from their sales tax. So there is a way. It's not, yes, I'll send it to you. On the state law does says it's either per capita or ad valorem. You know, that's fair. There's no hybrid. But counties in Caldwell County here, they have structured a deal with their small municipalities, and I wish I knew you were coming, because I'd have this ready and I'd be fired up to talk about it. But it exists. It's out there. So it is. There are ways where the county can distribute and still keep the ad valorem. So, you know, I appreciate you coming here and acknowledging that, because to say it's a sore subject with our town might be an understatement. So.
It's a very sore subject.
It's over half your budget.
It's right there with the machine.
And Mr. Mobley, did I take from your comments that you are for a sales tax hike?
So, depending on how it's structured, you know, last time when they tried to get the sales tax passed, they said they wanted to pair it with a reduction in the property tax rate. So I would like to see something similar. You know, like I said, if we can get the per capita switch on there as well, that would be ideal.
Yeah, they just did a big hit to folks out here. Most people hit at least 30%. There's people's been hit 100% property tax valuations and things. People's lived here all their life, not really worried about their property value, just trying to live. And you know, I think they need to be thinking about how to cut a few dollars down there in the county instead of getting more. So, thank you.
I will echo that as well. We have a lot of very upset people about their tax bills, and the county just seems to tax and spend with no regard for the amount they're taking from citizens. You know, this is a time when we're all paying quite a bit for fuel and high inflation, and the timing is just not too good, and they seem to be tone deaf to all this. I talked to a lot of people about this. They're upset that the county didn't attempt to present some sort of revenue neutral budget, at least discuss it, address it, to just, I'm in a state of shock about it. Town of Stokesdale, if I remember correctly, our property values overall went up 34%. I think that's probably the highest in the county. And maybe that's great on paper, at least for some people, or if you're a real estate agent or what have you. But folks that have lived here a long time that are on the lower income scale, you know, they are getting hit hard. And I hope if you're elected that you will, you know, keep these things in mind as you represent everybody.
Yeah, well, Guilford County's put a hurting on some people in this town with what they've done with these reevaluations, and everything peaked And now, you're gonna see things going down. And I guarantee you, they're not gonna, lower your property valuation anytime soon. So, you know, it's not a good thing. You're gonna get in a hornet's nest. Good luck.
I've got a couple more things too. The name of that town is Gamewell. It's in Caldwell County. And there's basically an interlocal government agreement that states the county distributes sales tax, and the town pays back 20% of that figure back to the county. So that's something I found to be interesting, to kind of work around the black and white of the two options in the state statute, and something like that would certainly be good for our town. And two, you mentioned the school bond. I think with the new school bond, it's going to the cost to retire that debt would be roughly $50 million a year, the 1.7. So would you agree that I perceive sometimes that folks may realize that when a bond passes, there's got to be a way to pay for it, and that is through taxes. I don't think folks correlate a bond and a tax increase going together. And I don't want to debate. I don't want to debate the merits of the school bond. It passed convincingly, and my prayers and hopes are with the school system that they do very well with it. As a county commissioner candidate, are you concerned that the $300 million bond that passed, call it almost 3 years ago, they're now saying it's going to require about $470 million to pay the projects that fell under that $300 million umbrella? I certainly understand inflation is a real thing. Believe me, I really do. But at 60%, are we doing any kind of value engineering? Maybe rather than build, I don't know.
Well,
It just seems like it's
they set up, I know, at
excessive.
the county level, a committee to work with the school board on that. And, I mean, I do agree, that is a concern of mine when you see, that money already not going nearly as far as you expected, And again, that's what gives me concern about this area, because people tend to assume that since people here are more affluent, that the schools don't get the attention that maybe some of the other schools
Oh,
do.
we don't assume it.
Well, yeah, so that money may run out before they get to us, and we'll still have trailers up here at Northwest High School. So again, I very much don't want that to happen.
Right.
I'm hoping my finance background can help there. And, I do agree. I think, and again, the commissioners have, they have some control over what the school board does, from an approval standpoint, but it's a tough dynamic there. And I do think we need to shift their mentality a little bit, because I've been to the school board meetings, and I think the mentality when they were unveiling some of these first new schools is unique designs that, were somehow part of the community there, and that translates into expensive, right? So I have heard, I agree with those proposals. How do we standardize the design? How do we
Yeah.
save, on maybe, bulk designs, buying, and again, hopefully, what we're seeing now with inflation is a little bit more, transitory than appeared initially.
Right.
Some of the recent numbers are a little bit more encouraging.
With the commodity prices, specifically lumber, has significantly dropped since February.
But at the same time, interest rates are going up, so it's gonna be.
It's a challenge, right? I mean, and I commend you for putting your name out there. One question about that committee you mentioned between the commissioners and the school system. Do you know if that is a bipartisan committee from members of the Guilford County Board of Commissioners?
It could have been. It is currently not. Right now, all of the commissioners on there are part of the Democratic Party.
That are part of that committee?
Yes.
You mentioned someone named Ashton Clemens. Could you further identify her?
Sure. So Ashton Clemens, she is, I guess, my state House representative. So when they redistricted, I was in Representative Faircloth's district, but they moved me over. I live in SF4, just for reference. And so Ashton Clemens became my representative, which is why I reached out to her, because, that's another option I thought to deal with this. Is the legislature can, they can create
Right.
counties to deal with the issue.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Well, thanks for coming to see us.
Thank you, Mr. Mobley.
Good luck.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
His was the only request I had to speak. Is there any other request to speak before the council? Old business, review and adopt the 2022 to 2023 schedule of fees and charges. That's also in your packet.
Mr. Mayor, I would like for us to at least walk through this from paragraph to paragraph, if not line by line.
Please lead us on.
Well, copies, notary fees, return check fee, $20. Is that what the bank would charge us, or is that just an old number that we had on the,
That's an old number. That's a real old number.
they're
I haven't
38,
bounced
30
one in a long time, but I know that's a real old number.
Well, I try not to, but so.
I quit taking them.
I'd like to propose we raise that to, let's call it 38.
Tom, do you know what the statute says? There is a statute on this.
I don't know.
Well, I propose 38, subject to legal review then.
Hey, Siri.
Do we have a second? Jimmy, did you second?
You don't have a motion yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's
blanket them.
Let's try to walk through this, and then we'll make a motion
All right.
to accept the changes or not, and see if we can get there that way. If we go with a vote on every line, we're gonna be here a while. And then, I don't know how much revenue we're generating from the ball fields. I know that the maintenance is kind of high. Is $10 an hour and $15 an hour a reasonable number, all things accepted for that? Mr. Foy, do you have an opinion?
Do I have an opinion? I would say it's,
You've been a lot more involved here of late down with the Parks and Rec folks is the reason I ask you.
well,
I wouldn't want to increase it for resident.
I'm just saying, keeping in mind, we have expenses. And then, I think I can live with the picnic shelter fees as is.
When does when's Parks and Rec do their budget now? Derek, do you know? I mean, I wouldn't want to change it for Parks and Rec in the middle of their budget.
it's been 3 years and different guy. I don't know. I mean, it was the summer when I was there.
The only reason I say that you have your fees and everything, I mean, they figure it up just like we do a budget.
They do.
That's a good point.
And I wouldn't want to raise it, I wouldn't want to raise it on residents. If you're going to raise it,
Oh, yeah.
it'd be non-residents.
Well,
I mean, because they're not, I don't think any non-residents would be making a budget. And if we decided we needed to raise it for residents, for some odd reason, then, we could do it.
yeah, I mean, I certainly won't be voting to raise the fee for the ball field.
Yep.
So,
What about non-resident?
I mean, we can keep it there, but I mean, do we go through the process of asking for identification to verify addresses?
I'll say this, it hasn't happened in a while, but there was a period of time there where we had a scenario where folks wanted to hold tournaments using our ball fields and charge a fee to enter those tournaments and basically be a middleman and capture income for their organization and leave the town without any increased revenue. And that seems to have fell by the wayside, but if we keep these fees low enough, we're gonna have a tendency to attract folks from a large radius.
Well, that's what you're gonna get with non-residents. You're gonna get people wanting to do tournaments and things, and then they come in and tear your fields up.
Well, I'm just,
We had to keep them up. I mean, you get these, that's the only reason I say that. And I mean, we can change it anytime. We don't have to change it tonight. Everybody think about it.
My suggestion on that particular scenario would be we maybe come up with a separate plan for like a multiple hour lease fee or something that would incorporate some sort of deposit to where if the fields were torn up, they would have to reimburse us. And also they would, put in some, because I've been to plenty of tournaments, and another thing you've got to take in consideration is trash, because the trash will be running over. You got to take in consideration parking, and are they going to be parking on the grass? So it's a bigger animal than just a lease fee if you're somebody's putting a tournament on. They're gonna want to bring trucks out here, concessions. So I think we need to address that in a separate document maybe, and be a little bit more detailed, just to make sure we cover the whole base.
That's a good idea.
that sounds good to me. We hadn't had that situation lately to my knowledge, but it has occurred in the past. The community room rent, this room doesn't seem to be that popular so far as the rentals go, but the thing is, it puts a workload on the staff to have to get all the chairs up, store it, install the movable wall, handle the administrative steps, and recover from that when they're done. It's not renting at 75 or 100, but I'm always conscious of outside organizations finding this facility and making adverse use of it possibly. It's the local community is certainly something, I have no worries there. And so I can live with a 75 and 100, but I particularly object to renting out the kitchen for $25 and $50. That is the staff break room for our employees, and they rely on that to have a place to eat and a place to keep their lunches and various paraphernalia. I just took a glance in there before this meeting, and to have to clean all that out, rent it out, and then come back and put all that back in place, it would just be, it's just ridiculous to rent it for $25. I think this needs to be raised considerably. I'd like to see maybe $100 for a resident and $150 for a non-resident. But, that's my opinion as an individual council member here.
Is there any objection to that?
Okay, so I'd like to propose that being 100 and 150.
For the kitchen?
Just for the kitchen, yeah. I think if it started renting out very much, we could have some unhappy staff members because of everything that would come with that. I'm just trying to head that off at the pass.
Is there any kind of an agreement that a resident or non-resident would sign if they were to rent, say, the kitchen or even this room?
We have a facilities use agreement.
Do we?
Yes.
Okay, does it basically say that the facility should be returned to the,
The condition when they found it.
when they
yes.
found it? It does? Okay,
If it's not, we have the option to keep that deposit.
right, I understand. Well, that deposit wouldn't be a whole lot of money, depending on how much you had to clean up.
But you got a $200 deposit.
Yeah, well, a broken ice maker tray or damage to a range or something, it wouldn't, that wouldn't go far to play the devil's advocate here.
Have we rented the kitchen out since you've been here?
I think, yeah.
Why do we even have to rent it out at all?
Well, I'm saying I'm okay with that, but I don't want it rented out cheap.
Well, okay, so what's the numbers?
$100 for residents for the kitchen and $150 for non-residents, still with the $200 deposit.
If y'all want to raise the deposit, I wouldn't argue with
Now,
it.
when we rent this out, is this for a certain number of hours or a certain number of days? I mean,
It
for the
would be,
whole day?
it would be rented out to go with the community room rental.
Okay, but is there a time limit on that?
I think it's four, is it 4 hours on the community room rental? Okay.
Well, but let's go back to nonprofits. I don't really mind resident nonprofits, but if you open this thing up, I mean, if I had a club going on somewhere, a nonprofit, and I was out of town and I found out there was a place that was letting nonprofits go in for free, I'd be having meetings all the time.
Well,
And now it's gonna get out because we're sitting here doing it.
well,
Right now, about the only ones that are taking advantage of that are HOAs.
Well, they're in town, they're residents.
Right.
It's a resident nonprofit. I'm talking about not resident nonprofits.
No,
I mean,
there's not even
we've
an
got a
option.
blank here.
we need to guard from becoming a mecca for that sort of thing, and that's,
You know, I mean, you could have a nonprofit baseball card club or something.
Stipulation would be to have the community room, you gotta be a resident. For nonprofits.
we could, right now, the nonprofits are using the community room for free. I don't think any have tried to use the kitchen for free.
As far as I know, nobody's ever asked to use it, but
Yeah.
nobody's here to monitor whether they do or not.
I've got a suggestion on that. We had an HOA in here this past weekend, and due to my confusion, there was some problem in getting access and getting out. The thing that concerns me the most is when I came in to close, the reception area was wide open. That would allow anyone, not to say they would, but that would allow anyone just to go right over the counter, and now all of a sudden they're in our back area. Same thing with this door. I would expect this door to be locked before whoever leaves on Friday.
It's the door on the hallway door over there.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And how about the kitchen door? Can it be locked from
It can from the hallway, but not between the conference room, I don't think.
okay, so if you get in here, if you get in the executive conference room, you can get to the kitchen.
I think so.
Okay, well, then that door that goes out into the record-keeping area, that should be locked too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so 100 on the kitchen, 150 for non-residents, and
Deposit still.
can we go to 250 on the deposit? Protect the town a little better. In regards to the use of this meeting room for nonprofits to meet, we used to have a fee for the use of this room, and I don't remember what that fee was. That was eliminated 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm flexible either way, but I hate for us to be not charging a fee at all, especially to non-residents out there. They just hadn't found it yet, but I feel like we could, at some point, have an organization wanting to use this community room, every night, given that it's free. If it's free, we're subsidizing it and encouraging its use. And with that comes, carpet cleaning, cleaning the bathrooms, water use, all those little things. And, I mean, my personal feeling is if anybody's gonna use this room, whether it be a nonprofit homeowners association or whomever, I'd like to see them pay a little something, $20 from observation. The room, just cars in the parking lot, it seems like we usually have anywhere from 10 to 20 people that attend these meetings. the HOAs collect dues from their members in the neighborhoods. And, you know, I'm not trying to shut anybody out here. I'm simply just trying to moderate the room's use and get a little money back in so that we have some income to help defer the expenses for the janitorial service and, you know, the staff having to handle the issue, you know, giving a key out and retrieving the key and that sort of thing. And so I just kind of hate to see this be zero for those reasons.
I would suggest we keep the resident fee at zero for nonprofits and that we do not allow any nonprofit that is not a resident.
I would
I like
concur.
that.
I like that. Mr. Medlin, can we do that?
Yes.
And what was that?
There is no fee for residents, nonprofits, and we do not allow non-residents to use the room at no,
Well, they could still do it, but it would be $100. I mean, you could rent it, somebody came in, we don't have a,
Well,
So I gotta play devil's advocate on that, just because this is gonna come up. So are we holding that $100 to where the nonprofit is housed? Or what if it's a nonprofit that's housed somewhere else, but there's a citizen in Stokesdale that's a member of it? Would they get it free because there's a member attending from this town?
I think that's a question for Mr. Medlin. How could we legally define this?
what's the difference in a nonprofit and just somebody who wants to rent the place?
The Scouts are a good example of that.
Well, I mean, there's lots of nonprofits. You know, you know, there are some like the Scouts and a few things like that, but there's I don't know how to put it, but there's lots of nonprofits.
Are there groups of people that do certain things? They might play chess or they might sew quilts together.
There's a lot of nonprofits that are actually making some profit. They're just set up like nonprofits. So,
The question that I believe you were asking me is, to try to, what Mr. Rigsby was saying, address what's the location, how do you define that for a nonprofit if they're non-resident? And so I would say that you can define that as where their office is located. If they've got an office in Stokesdale, then they're a resident. You know, they have a presence here. Just because a member may be from here, I would not say that would qualify.
So would it be safe to say we would go by the legal address of that nonprofit? Thank you.
you know, I'd be okay with a no fee on the nonprofit resident, but as far as saying nonprofits can't rent it, I mean, you can rent the community room, anybody can come in and rent it as a non-resident for $100, so I mean, they can still rent it. I just think we should put $100 down.
We're trying to stop them from, we think we might create a problem if we don't stop non-residents from being able to use it for free, right?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
They could still rent a community room.
Well, you've got non-residents here that can rent the community room, but at nonprofits, you don't have anything, so I would just say put $100 on it, you know, say nonprofits from out of town would be $100 if you're gonna rent it, because they can come in anyway. I mean, anybody that says, I mean, non-resident can come in and rent it for $100. So, I mean, they don't have to say they're a nonprofit or anything, they can come in and rent it, so just put it down, so we don't confuse it.
How about this, that there's no fee to nonprofits provided they have their legal addresses in the town of Stokesdale.
That's fine.
The town of Stokesdale, and what about Rockingham County where our address extends up there? I mean, just somebody's gonna ask. I would think we'd want to stick with just the town of Stokesdale to keep it simple.
They have to be a resident, or they have to have a residential address. Or address.
To be a nonprofit, they have to have a legal address for the IRS, don't they? I mean, you can't have a nonprofit without having an address, correct?
Yeah.
I don't know anything else we can do.
I mean, you can have a nonprofit that's not a 501c3 tax exempt nonprofit. You can have people who form a nonprofit LLC or corporation with the state but never get that tax exempt. So they'll pay taxes, but they're a nonprofit. So, and people can't, well, back up. They may or may not pay taxes, but people can't give them money and deduct it because they're not a 501c3 or other qualified. So, yeah, so you can technically be a nonprofit.
Well, whatever we do here,
You're gonna have an address. Well, you can say that, you know, on that incorporation sheet that it doesn't have a principal office. You can have a nonprofit that doesn't have a principal office, but you're gonna have a registered agent, you're gonna have an address of somebody that you're gonna file.
well, it needs to be something that our staff can deal with when the, you know, when this.
You can always look them up. If they're in North Carolina, you can look them up on Secretary of State's website.
Yeah, one more devil's advocate, what if it's a nonprofit and the registered agent, let's say is in Raleigh, they're just using
Yeah.
somebody.
CT
And
Corporation.
but it's, they benefit the town, you know, they have whatever, and, you know, I think we're getting in the weeds on a problem that we haven't run into yet.
The physical address, it cannot be a PO box. When you utilize that Secretary of State, it has to be a physical address. So,
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I'm gonna tell you what I think, and I'm hearing Jim and Jimmy. You can have an individual just come in and say, I wanna rent the room.
Yeah.
And I'm a resident, I'm a non-resident. And they can bring the Boy Scouts, they can bring whatever, but they're renting the room, and they do it in their name, they're responsible for it. You can kind of skirt around these things.
Yeah, we're not trying, what we're trying to do is stop
Right.
from giving the free use of the facility
So I
to
would
people
be.
100 miles away, for example.
Exactly. I think you just charge a fee, resident one fee, non-resident another fee, and don't worry about nonprofits and all that. It's just, you charge your fees for whoever's renting.
Well, if that be the case, then we need a fee for, so from a legal perspective, let me reframe what I think I just heard from you. You're suggesting that we eliminate the nonprofit no fee line that we have on this
Yeah,
fee schedule.
that's what I would say. I think it's too easy to skirt and get around, from a practical point of view.
You know, to let council know what I was thinking about, and I hear you, Mr. Rigsby, down there, we don't have a problem. But if we had a problem from a group that was basically was, let's call it abusing their privilege, let's say they were meeting here twice a week, and this organization was 75 miles away, if we step in at that point, we might be accused of discriminating against that particular group, whoever they may be, for whatever circumstances it may exist. And I was also trying to head that off at the pass too, if you see what I'm saying.
Well, what about, instead of going down these roads, what about if we put a limit on how many times nonprofits can use it for free a month? And that way your homeowner, because your homeowner association is only gonna meet once every, let's just say every quarter. Most of your nonprofits aren't gonna meet once a month, more than once a month anyway, just because it's not a pressing issue. And that would keep.
Not a bad idea.
That would keep people from, you know, abusing it for a non-true purpose that what was intended. So just say no more than one time per calendar month they can use it. And it would, you know, I'm all right with, it has to be a citizen or whatever, a representative in town of Stokesdale that maybe that books it or something, but I think you're gonna get into, organizations that are based elsewhere, but they have plenty of members that are town residents, you know, and they're just looking for a place to meet because of locality or whatever.
Point taken.
So-
I'll also mention this, we've had groups in the past years ago that wanted to use the facility, and they were making good use of it and not causing a problem. But it boiled down to some citizen needed to sign to be responsible for the room, for the key. If anything went wrong, they needed to be the contact person, and if it's just a group of people that don't have any legal status, then that leaves the town in a difficult position if anything goes wrong, if we don't have any paperwork or anything. And we've kind of had that battle in the past to some degree. So I'm just looking for the best way to handle this. I don't. If the council wants to leave it like it is, and Mr. Rigsby's idea is to limit one free meeting a month to a nonprofit, then, hey, I'm cool with that.
A resident nonprofit.
Yeah, resident nonprofit.
Is there any other discussion?
Well, my only argument to the mayor's last comment would be you're leaving a door open for a non-resident nonprofit because you're saying resident nonprofits are limited to once a month. So if you're a non-resident nonprofit, we're still not restricting them. So we need to I think we just need to go across the board with that and say one time a month for any nonprofit. And that'll close the loophole up on somebody from out of town being able to use it twice because they're technically not a resident. I just don't want, if you define the description, you're gonna narrow that hole, is my point. So we just define it as one use a month per organization, period. And not try to get into the resident, non-resident stuff.
I disagree.
Then you need to be restricted, and then you're gonna have to add another sentence to be restrictive of out-of-town non-residents.
I'm not
as well.
disagreeing with the nonprofits, local nonprofits. I'm disagreeing with the non-resident nonprofits. You know, and I kind of disagree with the local in a way, because I don't like differentiate. I mean, just somebody wanted to have I mean, what's the difference? Some families want to have a birthday party, and some guys want to get together and play checkers. You know, because they got a tax number or something. But, I mean, it is what it is, but I don't want us to be the open door for the whole country, for the nonprofits to come in. I mean, they can come in now. It's a good deal to rent the thing for $100. So if you're not a resident nonprofit, then you do just like anybody else. You pay $100 and $250 deposit.
So what you're saying, Jimmy, is you want non-residents, nonprofits to pay the same $100 and the $250 deposit?
That's right. I mean, you're talking about people, we don't know where anybody's gonna come from. I mean, they come in and tear the carpet up or tear something up and then they're gone. They're not even into town. $100 is cheap. I mean,
That's
You
reasonable.
can't rent a motel room for $100.
That's reasonable. Is there any objection to that?
Just want to make sure that resident nonprofits are still zero.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
Y'all do what you want.
Well, this is gonna wind up just being a draft for it. The staff is gonna have to update, so we can look at that language when it's drafted and see if it meets our requirements. But what I hear is one free meeting a month for a resident nonprofit.
And can we define resident nonprofit as, must have someone living in the town to represent that nonprofit?
Or have an organizational address in the town?
And let me give you an example where I'm just trying to make sure we don't close out, is, Oak Ridge Youth Football. That they incorporate Stokesdale residents in their organization. So if they want to have their end of the year party here, technically they're housed in Oak Ridge. But they have plenty of residents in Stokesdale, coaches, et cetera, that live in town, Stokesdale. That's the groups I don't want to exclude, is the ones that benefit the town, but they may not be here necessarily.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That resident that lives in Stokesdale would have to sign the paperwork anyway. So they would be responsible.
So just, that may be the caveat, as long as there's a resident living in the town to represent the organization or to sign the paperwork.
When we've been allowing nonprofits to use the room, we do get the signature of a responsible adult, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I did point out that the return check fee max cap is $35.
Yeah,
I thought it was. I thought it was.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Parade fees, sponsorship, the entry fee is $25. Platinum sponsorship is $500. Gold sponsorship is $250, and a silver sponsorship is $150.
Looks good.
Any discussion?
Well, no, I'm good with the parade as is.
Planning and zoning fees?
The one I see that it seems a little bit on the low side is $100 for a Board of Adjustment case. Don't we have to advertise those? They certainly, create a load on staff, and then usually Mr. Midland is gonna get involved in those. And it just seems like $100 is a little bit on the low side. I might not feel that way if I was trying to file it, but nonetheless, given the outgo that we have with our budget, 100 just seems to me to be kind of thin.
I absolutely agree with that, given, I don't know if you have to advertise it or not. Do you know, Ms. Martin?
And I don't
Depends-
know if
depends on what it
that's in
is.
addition to the filing fee. Is there any advertising on any of those? Let's see, it's a,
For Board of Adjustment,
yeah, that'd be like a request for
usually a challenge of
variance or
the-
something.
of the ordinance interpretation, gonna be a waiver. Those are not advertised.
No advertising, it's not a public
Probably
hearing.
not advertised. It's not an advertised public hearing,
Yeah,
I don't think.
I don't think so.
But to
either.
Tim's point, the amount of attorney time that's spent just on the sheer length of these cases merits the increase to, I'd say, $250.
Any further discussion?
You propose 250?
I do, sir.
Okay.
Site plan review fees is $1,000 per case plus $100 per 1,000 feet.
Does somebody know what the abbreviation GFA means in this case? Okay, well, if none of us know, should we be using it?
I'm gonna circle it, 'cause I have no idea.
Well, it may mean something to your planning department.
Yeah, let's look into it.
True that. I think,
Yeah,
It has to do with MLS, the name, it's the size of the,
it's what, Mr. Mayor?
I'm working on it. It's the size.
Gross floor area. Take it.
Got as big as I can get it, and I can't read it.
Mm-hmm.
seems like that belongs with houses, not land.
Most site plans,
MLS listing for GFA, I can't tell you.
you're giving the
I
site.
got you.
So you gotta have the square footage of that
I got
building.
you. Okay, thank you.
And gross floor area, if you're multi-story, it's gonna cover each story, not just,
Not just the foundational area.
exactly.
Okay.
Gross floor area,
Makes sense.
okay.
I would say we just leave this.
Global financial assistance.
I would suggest we leave that site plan review fees as is.
Okay.
There it is.
So, somewhere, I thought we had a $350 fee to cover the cost of inspecting the water infrastructure in a new subdivision.
It's under the water. Let me find it.
Aggregate gross floor. Aggregate gross floor.
The $350 plan review fee that we implemented, it's the very last thing.
It's 315.
It's on what page? Oh, at the very end. Okay, thank you. I'm going nuts here. Thank you. Okay, we can leave that alone since we're not sure about what to do. The It's been suggested to me by staff that we need to raise the street and easement closings from $250 per case to something because of the advertising costs associated therewith. Ms. Martin, can you give us a rough idea what those advertising costs are in those cases?
To advertise a street closing, it's 4 consecutive weeks in the paper, and each ad is gonna probably be at least $250 apiece.
Each ad?
So that's $1,000? Ouch. Wow.
Well, I mean, is that
I
what?
guess
we're
the
gonna
answer is
put, $1,000?
1,250 per case.
Is there a minimum of 4 weeks, or can you, I mean, if you were just to close it for 2 weeks?
It's by statute.
Yes, statute requires 4 consecutive advertisements.
I'm good with $1,250 until we come up with a better plan.
Who pays that? Like, in a case like that? I don't think one's ever come across.
We got one on the agenda tonight.
Yeah,
Would have to be the
the state's asking to do
the
that.
developer?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
The developer's doing it.
Developer.
okay.
All right, street renaming and renumbering, I don't recall having to deal with that.
Guilford County
changed.
does that, but
They changed half the names in Angel's Glen after it was already set up. That goes back 10 years.
Yeah. Whoever changed it to Kergmore, I'd like to,
That was the one that didn't get changed.
it did get changed. It was something else.
I don't think so. I think that was,
All right.
what the,
100% certain.
Any other
really?
requested public hearing?
I'm happy with leaving the appeal from the planning board decision at 200, I think.
That sounds good.
All right, that leaves us to.
any
water-
other requested public hearings at 250?
That really needs to be 250 plus advertising cost, right?
Okay, I'm good with that.
Is that another 1250?
Ah,
Any other requested public hearings, $250 per case plus legally required advertising.
correct.
Water deposit, owner occupied, $50.
Yes,
Water deposit, lease renter, $175.
yes.
Water customer service fee, $25 per month.
It's 2550.
it's $25.50 now.
That's right.
Okay, we need to
Change.
correct that to $25.50.
Yeah. Water usage fee is $6.49 per 1,000 gallons. What did that change to?
$6.70.
$6.70. New account setup fee is $25, one-time charge. Disconnect, reconnect fee, $75 per occurrence. Close abandoned tap fee, $250.
On the closed abandoned tap fee, I would like to add something, maybe in parentheses, to cover the cost of reconnecting that tap, which I think we voted on that recently, and it seems like it was $1,000. Does that sound right to staff?
If you give me a minute,
I think it was. I think you're right.
Okay, we need to find that number and get it inserted here. You know, it doesn't have to be tonight.
Reconnect,
Okay,
abandoned tap fee.
the bulk water schedule here, I've got a question. We have an application fee and a permit fee. What's the difference between those two? You apply, and then you have to buy a permit. How come that isn't one action?
I have no idea. It was this way previously.
Oh, okay, I hadn't read that policy in a long time, but that just seemed,
Have we sold any water, or is everybody just stealing it?
They're just stealing it.
I think they mostly just take it when they want it. Well, I don't wanna make those fees so high, people don't wanna come down here and legally buy the water.
Well, they're not doing it now.
Well, the water usage, $10 for 10,000 gallons needs to be corrected. I believe that needs to be $10 for 1,000 gallons. Does that sound right to everybody?
They've already fixed that.
That's already there.
Not on my copy, okay.
Water usage,
You got a bad copy.
I got a bad copy then. Forgive me, I'm behind.
That'd be a good deal.
and you've got water meter deposit of $250 refunded upon return undamaged.
That, just FYI, cancel $250 wouldn't begin buying that meter that we're handing out and that rig that we have. I don't know what the thing costs, but $250 is real thin if somebody didn't bring it back.
Are you talking about a 3/4 tap?
No, it's more like 3 inch. It's in the closet in there if you wanna see it.
I mean, that won't help me.
I mean, it's big, brass, expensive looking. I'd say the thing probably costs more like 800. I don't know, just guessing.
So 800?
Well, that'd probably be a good question for Ms. Hunsucker, but she's not here. We do want the thing back undamaged. Let's make that 500 and if y'all would accept that.
Any objection? Any further discussion?
What did you decide about the application fee and the permit fee? Just one fee or leave it like it is?
I think we need to leave it like it is until we understand it better, in my opinion.
Okay.
Ms. Martin, have we sold any water since you've been here?
Is what?
Have we sold any water that you know of?
We have. There's been a couple since I've been here.
Right. Do you know if we charged them both fees? Did they get charged both fees?
I'm sure we did. Now whether, well, let me back up.
No, that's okay. I mean, I know Priscilla handles that, so I didn't know if you just knew.
I don't know if they were separated. I know the $250 deposit was paid.
Right.
Trying to think, how did she do that?
That's okay. We can find out.
Water meter and tap fees, number one tap, residential commercial tap, 3,500, meter 300, meter installation 100.
I hate to admit it, but I have no idea what Yates is charging us for taps these days, off-side or near side. Does anybody know?
I thought we,
Right,
didn't we adjust all this back?
We did.
Months ago? I mean, we already adjusted all this.
I think this
Probably
was,
August or September.
I think it was $250 was Yates' fee.
No, well, we can come back to this.
We made adjustments.
Good.
Priscilla said yes, that both fees are charged at the water sold.
Okay, all right. Well, there's no reason to, that's worth it then, isn't it? Thank you.
Capacity fee, $750. Water deposit,
The capacity fee. That was set by, it wasn't Hazen and Sawyer. Tim, who was the other engineering firm?
McGill.
McGill. There's a
And-
McGill
and-
report.
and there's- There's all sorts of legal
There is.
language associated with it.
I've actually sent a question and I never got an answer. I don't guess the question was important enough, but to the school of government attorney asking if it would be proper for us to adjust that number based off inflation. That's a 2018 figure.
Well, that's a good question, but
I'm not gonna suggest we do it tonight until we get legal interpretation.
that's one.
My
I would-
desire is to adjust it for inflation.
Noted. This is one of those things I wouldn't want to touch unless we were sure we knew what we were doing.
I agree with that.
water deposit, $50. Number two tap, 3/4 tap, infrastructure developer, not applicable, existing. 3/4 meter, $300. Meter installation, 100. Capacity fee is the same, $750. And the water deposit is 50. Tap 3, 1-inch tap, $4,500. Meter, $550. Meter installation, 100. capacity use fee, 1,000. Water deposit, 50. Tap 4, 2-inch tap, $8,700. Meter, $1,650. Meter installation, 200. Capacity use fee, 1,500. Water deposit, 50. And then the plan review fees for water lines, hydrants, $315.
Hold on a second, Mr. Mayor. And should we have any language in here regarding any meters larger than 2-inch would need to be engineered and quoted by the town, and that would require extra steps? Do we need that on here, or is it just obvious to anybody that looks at it?
If we don't offer it, I don't know.
If you don't offer anything bigger than a 2-inch tap, they're gonna have to come to you and tell you they want something, and then you'll have to pass those regs.
Well, I'm just, you know, there's only gonna ever be just a handful in town, you know, you can't see a legal reason why we need to have it on here. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, I think you can do that.
Get much bigger taps, we better get some more water.
True enough. The plan review fees for water lines and hydrants, I remember that $315 was basically my idea, and that fell under the category of wild guess.
Scientific.
And no, it wasn't very scientific, but it was something to get us started. Ms. Thacker, from memory, you know, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit. Do you happen to remember what we have paid to date to Hazen and Sawyer for Aaron Babson to do the inspections at Northridge Phase 6? Just a I think at one time we had a flat fee plus so much per foot for the water lines being installed. I feel pretty certain this needs to be raised from 315 to something.
That is project, the 31410, correct? For
And town may have not received all the billing yet, it's not completely done.
Do you know how far back that goes?
Not long,
Not long, we started maybe in February, somewhere along in there.
been here.
I can go grab the invoices because
We've only had like one. I think we've only had like one invoice. I don't think,
Just a rough idea, if you can give us one. If not, we'll have to wing it here.
let me go grab the invoices. If you don't mind.
That's fine. Once we get over this hurdle, I think we have gone as far as we can go tonight, don't y'all?
Yeah, we're at the end of the page.
will it make all the changes that you've recommended so far tonight? Do you want a motion to this effect?
That's our intent. We're gonna make a
Before we-
motion to incorporate the changes into a new draft.
y'all get it settled?
No, I didn't anticipate Ms. Thacker being that long. Do you think we should move on to the next agenda item and back up when she gets that information?
I do.
Yeah, we still got to make a motion on it, so that's fine. Okay. New business, authorization of the mayor to execute letter from Offutt Kerman to transfer representation files and records currently maintained by the town attorney, Tom Medlin. I make a motion that we do.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to make a point, this wouldn't be my first choice to affiliate the town of Stokesdale with a big New York City law firm. It just doesn't feel right, no offense, Mr. Medlin.
New York City.
New York City, that's the way it kind of feels to me.
Think of it as getting a new attorney.
Well,
At least we can charge them if they want to rent the community room.
Along with our attorney doesn't
We'll
get
even give him
access.
the resident rate, right?
Yeah. We're not resident.
Okay, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby,
Aye.
Mr. Foy,
Aye.
Mr. Landrith, Mr. Jones,
I'm nay.
and I am aye. Discussion of the water meter extension on Ellisboro Road.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table this.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to say that I feel this is certainly a capital improvement project, and I think we need to put it into the pile with the other capital improvement projects where we have under consideration, and, we have these monies coming to us, and we're going to need to crunch through this and make the best possible use of the monies we're going to receive, and I think it'd be premature to pull the trigger on this particular capital improvement project tonight, so that's my logic.
Any further discussion?
I agree with Tim. I think what generated this to be on the agenda was that we did get the engineering work back from Kennerly and Kennerly. So certainly will be a discussion item during our water workshops, which we'll talk about here hopefully very soon.
Any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby,
Aye.
Mr. Foy,
Aye.
Mr. Landrith,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
and I'm also aye. Request by North Carolina DOT for road abandonment of SR 2102, Angel Purdue Road in Stokesdale in Guilford County. I need some clarification on this. Does this mean they're no longer maintaining our Angel Purdue out here?
No.
It's
What
just a
does this mean?
section that goes down into that farm.
It's just the dirt road beyond the paved area?
Yeah.
That's fine.
There's a map.
That's fine. I make a motion that we accept.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Let's see, you identified it by,
Number 11.
That's
It's
right here.
2102, State Road 2102.
Mike,
Yeah.
see right there. That's the section that goes down into the farm to that. The state, I guess, has just been maintaining it into that property for a little low.
well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, to further identify this, this is NCDOT file number G-41-22 dated August the 3rd, 2022. That's been signed by the district engineer.
Is this a friendly amendment?
Yes.
I accept that. Mr. Landrith,
Oh, yeah, I accept it.
any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby,
Aye.
Mr. Foy,
Aye.
Mr. Landrith,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
and I am also aye. Town park improvement.
Yeah, I'd like to give an update on the committee's progress. We've been meeting every Thursday at 5:15 at Town Hall. We've had 3 meetings to date. The board did elect T. Stevenson to chair the committee. We've reviewed several amphitheater designs and have submitted a design. The committee favor to the landscape architect, Ms. Lori Hawkins, who's submitting, who will be performing a plan and a computer-aided design that hopefully she'll be able to provide to us, or we can share with council at our next meeting in September. We've reviewed the town survey, and the committee will be examining the feasibility of adding additional projects that rated high on the survey. For example, maybe additional playground equipment, a basketball court, and nature trails. Nature trails did rank the highest item that citizens wanted to see on the survey. And Mr. Wagner, as mentioned earlier, is working with the North Carolina Park Trust on grant opportunities, and I appreciate all his hard work doing there. He's really hit the ground running, and appreciate everything he's done. Jimmy, do you have anything? Jimmy's also a committee member.
No, I don't have anything to add. I just, we've got the survey and,
Yes, sir.
there's, quite a few things on the survey that I think we're gonna be able to, make happen. With money that we've received without, it's taxpayer money, but it's not money that we don't have a property tax, and
Right, we need to do what Stokesdale does well and
Yep.
stretch that dollar.
that's right. Well, we're pulling money in that we wouldn't get. Somebody else would get it, so hopefully we're gonna make some nice things happen with it.
All right, that's all I have, sir.
Water, 12A, water workshop meetings, thanks to our Mayor Pro Tem, we have some money.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes,
could
sir, I'm
interrupt you
sorry.
a second. Ms. Thacker is back with, has provided me with a copy of the invoice. I'm ready to make a suggestion regarding the fee schedule that we paused on,
Okay,
and that would be to change the plan review fees for water lines and hydrants from $3.15 to $5.50.
nice.
That's what it's costing, right?
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Well, we don't know yet, but we know we're spending more than $3.15.
Right.
$5.50.
Yes.
Ms. Martin, I guess you got everything, all the changes that we were gonna make.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna listen to the tape, and then I will send it out as a draft for you all to look at as well, and let me know if I've missed anything.
Okay, do we need to vote on that pending her doing that?
Yeah,
or-
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we have the staff incorporate the changes that we've reached a consensus about during this meeting for the schedule of fees and charges for fiscal year 2022, 2023, and submit those to council for approval at a later date.
Yeah, I'll second.
Any discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Landry?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Now, back to water workshop meetings.
Yeah, so I believe that the council needs to commit to, it's my opinion, the council needs to commit to water workshops every other week for the foreseeable future. So it's just my suggestion, of course, open for discussion, that these workshops occur every Tuesday, or every other Tuesday at 5:15, beginning this coming Tuesday. I also acknowledge that the town has a policy that special call meetings will occur at 7 PM. There's reasons for that I really don't need to get into, but it is my opinion that if the town council consents to meet at an alternate time for these special called workshop meetings, that would be proper. I believe 5:15 PM work sessions are much better for staff schedule than, say, 7 PM. We will need a staff member here. And we'll be bringing other people in, from the outside, such as engineers or consultants, contract operators from time to time. So I guess my first question to council, does any member object to water workshops every other Tuesday at 5:15, starting Tuesday the 16th?
Now, this is just gonna be a workshop. We won't actually make any decisions. We'll be doing the
So I,
main deals during regular public meetings.
So
right?
I would expand on that and just, I'll actually type some stuff up. My suggestion for the format for the workshop is to encourage open discussion amongst council while providing water system stakeholders and customers the opportunity to provide feedback. I do not believe any votes to spend money should happen in these workshops.
Right.
However, we would likely vote to assign staff or council members follow-up items or actions to take place for subsequent meetings.
That's good.
Every other week starting when, Mr. Foy?
16th,
Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
I have
Yeah.
a conflict on the 16th, but, we can move forward. I'll just have to miss that meeting.
Okay.
Is this policy, Mr. Foy, got a specific name restricting us from only being able to meet at 7?
Not aware of a specific name. It was made while I was on town council, probably in mid-2020.
Well, if I wanted to make a motion to eliminate it, and I think I do, how would I identify it to staff and council and the public?
To eliminate it,
The policy that we're,
I think the policy,
conflict
the
with.
spirit of the policy is that we do things to where the majority of the people would be able to,
always,
see be at the meetings if they wanted to. I know we don't have a lot of people, but, we are on the internet now. That was the spirit of
Well,
that, instead of having
well,
something in the middle of the day when we do it
Yeah,
around.
I've got something to add then. Didn't really want to get into it, but the spirit of the policy is that special call meetings were called during the middle of the day. I'll just say when it was very difficult for Jim Rigsby and myself to be there. And,
well, the situation I'm trying to avoid here is wherein we have citizens that point to the policy and say, well, you're in violation of your own policy, you shouldn't be meeting, so that's my point.
that's a good point. Again, I mean, these are workshops.
I would go back to what Derek just said, was these are workshops that are not intended, and will not have any voting or.
Voting to spend money.
Yeah, spend money, so that would probably be a little different interpretation than an official. The intent of the original amendment was to keep votes from happening when we couldn't be there.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, my reason, that was, I guess, part of my reason, but my reason was that I wanted it to be, accessible to the most
Yeah.
citizens. And,
But
instead of calling a meeting in
and you're coming from a good place, and I agree with that.
and I still feel.
Jim
that
and I
way.
were being railroaded.
Well, I know, it was a lot more to it than just one thing, but I believe if we're gonna spend any money, we need to spend it at 7 o'clock at night or after. Unless
agree
it's
with
an
that.
emergency. If it's an emergency, of course, that comes into.
They say nothing good happens after dark, so.
Well, after 11, that was my rule.
well, I won't follow through with my motion until I can identify this policy. We'll take it up at a later date then.
I don't think did we ever say we wouldn't never meet?
I think you just set a policy, and to set a time other than that time, you had to vote,
Yeah.
is my recollection.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second for our every other Tuesday workshop, water workshop meetings at 5:15.
I haven't made the motion yet, but I'm
I'm
about to.
sorry, I thought there was a motion and a second.
No, you're good. I'm gonna make a motion to call special called water workshop meetings for the following dates to begin at 5:15, with the discussion topic being Town of Stokesdale Water System Capital Improvements. The dates are Tuesdays, August 16th, August 30th, September 13th, September 27th, October 11th, October 25th, November 8th, November 22nd, December 6th, and December 20th. Buckle up, boys.
God, I can't.
He's gonna have to give me a list.
Hey, we got business.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you,
Yeah.
Mr.
Robbie, I put you in charge of putting that schedule
Here
out
at
for
Town
us.
Hall,
Here at Town Hall.
and here at Town Hall.
Here at Town Hall with Zoom access. That should be broadcasted on YouTube like any other meeting.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that? Just a caveat that no voting or spending authority will be granted during these meetings.
I'll accept no voting to spend money, but we likely will vote to assign responsibilities to staff or to.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
Any further discussion?
Who seconded that?
Do we have a second?
I seconded it.
Yeah.
Mr. Rigsby seconded it.
Are there concerns, fellas? I can,
Yeah, let's have it at 11 o'clock at night. I don't sleep good about 11.
Well, 3 o'clock in the morning's better for me.
I'll do that.
You know, I love y'all and all, but I just don't know if I can make that many meetings, so. I
oh, it
hate
won't
to-
be fun.
Yeah, well,
It doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, I didn't advertise it as being fun, but
Can we, I mean, if we get our work done though, I mean, are we set to every one of those meetings, or are we, I mean, if we get in and work efficiently and get our work done, I mean, will there be an end to this?
Other words,
the end's December 20th.
pay, there ain't no sense in meeting.
Here's where I'm coming from, is that the $1.1 million grant from the state is rather time sensitive. So I would say that there is urgency to get money to encumber this, and the reality is it's likely gonna mostly go to engineering fees with whatever we do. But the council's gotta decide on a project, discuss a project, likely meet with other folks about the project. It's, yeah, I'm gonna hold true to these dates, and if we don't need to meet, you know,
We won't meet.
we won't meet, but I want it out there and on our schedules.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion?
well, I'm gonna be a no vote on this, just to be difficult with respect to Mr.
Wait your-
Foy. I think
wait
he's
your
right, but just too much of a good thing, Mr. Foy.
It's all right, brother. I know you'll be here, every one.
Yeah, I will if I can.
Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landry?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
I'm nay.
And I'm an aye. Discussion of town utility contractors, is this is the request that we have, that we're gonna let Robbie take care of vetting? Is this correct, or are there further?
Well, that was my suggestion in general. I didn't put this on the agenda, so certainly I would defer to whoever put it on the agenda. But my suggestion was, going forward, just to keep everybody in the loop, was things like this, now that we have a clerk in place, things like this, that maybe they could vet these things, like for approving somebody as a vendor, that prior to us voting, that the staff put a package together confirming that they have insurance and the requirements that are in our policy, our vendor policy, prior to it coming to us, instead of us approving them and then kind of, you know,
Backing into it.
making sure that they're compliant. That was my discussion with Robbie earlier, that we allow staff to vet any vendor before we take a vote on them.
Are you clear on that, Robbie? Yes. Okay, excellent. We've got septic system.
Whoa,
Sorry,
Mr. Mayor, excuse me.
I'm sorry, I thought you had.
Well, okay, number one, I asked for this agenda item.
Okay.
Number two, I hadn't been a party to any conversation instructing the staff to do research into this vendor or any other vendor. This basically came about when we noticed that we no longer had a backup on our emergency contact list in the event that we needed emergency services from a utility contractor. You know, it's discouraging to me to go out and attempt to help the town, help the council, if I'm gonna be treated like this, if I'm gonna be short-circuited. We don't have a town administrator, we don't have a public works director, we certainly don't have a town manager. And, you know, I'm certainly follow the will of the council here, but I've got time invested in this, and we're fixing to move along and not even discuss this vendor. That doesn't seem right to me.
I'm not pushing.
So what do we, you know?
I simply just made a suggestion that wouldn't it make more sense for us to know that these, before we vote on any vendor, not necessarily this, any vendor, that we allow staff to, just to make sure they're in compliance with our vendor policy, instead of voting on a vendor without anybody on council having any background information in front of us. That was just a suggestion that I made.
Mr. Rigsby, I just got through telling you that I have been in contact with these people. I developed this contact. You don't trust me at least enough to present this to council. I gotta go through staff.
I'm just saying we have a policy, and of anybody that would want to follow a policy, I would expect that you would be consistent with that. I'm just saying, as a suggestion of good business, that we, before we approve a vendor, wouldn't it make sense to at least make sure they're in compliance with our vendor policy? Any vendor.
Mr. Rigsby, I know we had a vendor policy at one time. I didn't realize we currently have a vendor policy. I thought it had been eliminated. I just know that if we're down here at 2:00 in the morning and Yates can't solve our problem and we have an emergency, we need somebody to be able to call, and I'm trying to fix that problem.
I understand that, but I'm not familiar if we eliminated a vendor policy. If we did, I must have missed that, because we've used that policy on landscaping and lawn care and everything else that we've contracted to do. So I just think it makes good sense. I mean, it's just a verifying of insurance, workman's comp, et cetera, before we approve them.
I'm not standing in the way of staff verifying that they're properly licensed, that they have sufficient insurance coverage, or any of that. Just be aware that we don't have a backup for Yates in the event that we have a water emergency. And I developed this contact through Fortiline, where we buy water meters and other supplies at, and I believe them to be a viable option. I'm certainly not ready to, hire them on the spot without some verification, and they have been out of town working on a job at Myrtle Beach, from what I understand, and couldn't be here tonight. I did ask them to come, and I have asked them to develop a price list. Certainly in line with the company that we used to have as a backup in Town Hall here that went out of business. But I object to my actions being short-circuited.
Well, I'm not short circuit, I'm just making a suggestion for good business, but whatever your motion is, I mean, as Jimmy would say, we'll hear your motion, we'll vote on it. I'm just saying, it would just make sense to me that if we were gonna approve a vendor, if that's your intent here, which I don't know what your intent here is with this motion, that we vetted them out before we make an official vote on anybody. But proceed on with your agenda item.
Well, I'm concerned that I somehow am missing a vendor policy that's been put in place prior to my time on recent election to council here. And so I don't know how that would impact my motion, but I will make this motion that we add A&D Enterprises to our emergency contact list, so that we at least have them there, and that we will follow through between myself and the staff to ask them to provide us with a price list and relevant insurance information. What council wants to do after that, is of course all up to y'all, but if we add them to this list, does not mean that, we're automatically gonna hire them. That if we have that emergency, council will have to take the necessary steps to approve any expenditures and supervise that work, et cetera. But again, we don't have a backup to Yates, and this is something that Gene Robertson has suggested that we do.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, Tim's obviously done some back work on this, so if I just want to encourage Tim, if you have any additional information, please share. I mean, if not, I'm voting yes, but.
Any further discussion?
Again, I would just ask that, maybe the vendor policy is the improper term, but we always, before we employ a vendor of any type, we always verify them through whatever policy we're using, whatever list of qualifications. I don't know what the term is, but we've always done it. Landscapers, anybody that works on Town Hall, we make sure they got certain amounts of liability insurance.
We used to have a very detailed process about that, and it was ripped away in short order by previous council members. And that's as far as I'm going with that. But I will, I certainly need to read the current policy and be sure I'm familiar with it and I understand. And if I can't find it, I may call you to help me with that, but
Again, I would hope it'd be right there in the policy, because we've referred to it before, every time we've hired a vendor, but with something, we definitely need to just follow up, and make sure we have a proper procedure in place, so we don't hire somebody any vendor without insurance or proper verifications.
well.
That's my point. It's more of a general process than it
Well,
is anything.
I have this fella's, well, he's got his cell number on the letterhead here. Certainly feel free to call him yourself, Mr. Rigsby, and ask him any questions that you deem appropriate. I would welcome that, and I think he would too. This is at least a second-generation family business with multiple crews, and as the letter states here, they work for, a wide area they already work for various municipalities, so I feel good about it up to this point, that they will be able to provide the necessary references and insurance information, licensing information, and be a viable option for us should we need them.
We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Next item is septic system maintenance. I believe this was added by Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I asked for it to be added, but in light of the previous agenda item, I don't know where to go with that. I would tell you that I don't think our septic systems, the septic tanks have ever been serviced. I believe based on, some recent events with the town hall system that we're past due on it. And I don't believe the current spending authority that the property committee has is sufficient to handle this.
What are you talking about doing? You talking about just having them pumped, or?
Well, staff was able to find the original permitting documents. They're in a file in the back, and I had hoped to get some time to examine those and see how large these tanks are so that we would have some idea of how much it would cost to get them pumped. And whatever, there may be some service recommendations contained in that paperwork, like cleaning a filter or something of that nature. And then we have at least one pump that may or may not be a good idea to have somebody take a look at it and see if it needs any attention. I'm flexible about that, but my point in putting it on the agenda is that there's not sufficient spending authority, as I understand it, to have that done without a vote of council. And nor do I know where we stand as far as a budget line item to get it out of.
But we just have started the fiscal year. I mean, you're not talking, what are you talking about, $350? $300, $350? I know that when they do these types here, one person in Stokesdale, and I don't know if he's got the right insurance and everything, but I know they clean the filters and do the, what they call, it's not a road rig or something that they run up in the lines and all that, and it's around $350. But we got 2 tanks.
Well, we have a commercial installation, and I just wanted to check, from a layman, I wanted to check that paperwork and make sure we didn't miss a step. If it recommended that a, distribution box be serviced every 5 years or something, I wanted to be sure we got that done. So I'm just calling this to council's attention, but I don't want to make a motion on it.
All right.
Would it not be appropriate that maybe staff could get a couple estimates, and maybe they would the companies would be able to determine maybe what size tanks they are and give us a proper estimate? Or are you saying that the documents are gonna have to tell us what size they are? I mean, I don't know that much about septic systems, but.
In the past, this is not something we would have put on staff, but if that's what council wants to do, I won't, that's fine by me.
I take it we probably don't have a septic tank vendor. Maybe we need to see about getting a septic tank vendor and making sure that they got the proper, I'll check around and see if some of the local guys, we'd have to have the proper insurance. I would say even with them. And we can look in the files. They don't have a tag. I don't guess they have a tag. Any suggestions other than that?
I'm not willing to make a motion.
I mean, we don't know what it would be. I mean, we don't know what kind of money or anything like that, so.
Well,
You wanna see the septic tanks be,
an approval up to a certain limit might be appropriate for the property committee to get the necessary work done, but I'm not gonna make a motion.
we'll find out some kind of a cost, between now and the next meeting. That way we can do it in the next meeting. Nothing's overflowing on us, so, you know. I'll do that.
Any further discussion? I'm going to move down to citizens' comments because the next thing we're going to do is go into closed session. So in an effort not to keep everybody hanging around that doesn't want to hang around, I have a request from Bobby Dalton.
The light's on, so I'm assuming it's on.
Light's
It
on.
should be working.
Yes, Mayor Crawford, Town Council members. This subject has kind of been in my mind for the past year. Cyberbullying. Recently, about a year ago, a friend of mine that works with me at Bojangles told me her child has been a target of cyberbullying in her school. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed because, I mean, I always feel like I was lucky because back when I was in high school, we didn't have to worry about stuff like that. We didn't have cell phones back then. I mean, we had bullies, but more or less it was more like the, I'm going to hit you in the face type of thing, not the, I'm going to talk about you on my cell phone and you're going to be upset. I just believe that we need to look into this subject, and I'm sure some of y'all have children who are in high school, and we want our kids to feel safe when they're in school. We don't want them thinking, well, am I going to be talked about on someone's cell phone, and then I might get into like a physical altercation with this person? And I just think this is something that needs to be really looked into. It needs to be addressed, and they need to know. The kids need to know that they can feel safe walking into a school and not be worrying about somebody saying, "Well, oh, she thinks she's better than me because she's making good grades," or just because she's just as better than me. I mean, kids don't want to feel like they're going to be in danger. With stuff that's been going on lately with shootings in high schools, this just needs to be, it needs to be dealt with. And I mean, I'm not saying that those might be started with cyberbullying, you just don't never know. But I mean, when I was in high school, I mean, we didn't think about somebody coming in and shooting up the school. And then Columbine happened 2 years later after I graduated from high school. Northwest Guilford is a very rural high school. And I just think this is a subject that needs to be dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I make a motion that we go into closed session.
Mr. Mayor, just if I could add, go into closed session in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A-6, and just to discuss employee performance reviews.
Accepted. Have a second?
You ready?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Jim?
Aye.
Derek? Aye. Jimmy?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye.
No.
installed it, I'll let him decide.
Okay.
Just 'cause I won't talk to her.
Unless another member wants to.
I have a question, sir.
Yes.
I'm just, I've wound them down. I still enjoy what I do. Perfectly honest. You know, in the earlier days, and really up until about a few years ago, it wasn't just COVID. COVID was listened to me on a personal level in that it gave me the ability to publicly step back. And I wasn't that close from being burned out. But sometimes, I know you're kind of teasing me, but sometimes I'm like, you gotta gun it a little bit more, girl. And I'm like, man.
I get it.
So, but I still care, and I don't think I'm being stupid, but I sometimes think I could push it harder.
I tell folks I'm the same way. I
You
said,
don't have to share that with anybody, you're just getting raw honesty from me.
I tell people, I said, I'm not winding up, I'm winding down. Do me one favor though,
Yeah.
and I know you do a good job of it, but just make sure, when I mentioned in there to them how blessed we are to have the quality of folks that we have protecting the town. Sometimes I think it's kind of overlooked, right, so I can throw that out there. Even if you work it in, if you don't, that's perfectly
Well, I
fine.
thought that was very nice what you said in terms of how fortunate you were to have grown up in this community serving
Yeah, it is.
citizens.
It is. I mean, you know, it's an honor you grow up here and to be able to serve the people that you grew up with, the citizens, and then, like I say, to have the quality of people that we have serving volunteering career. I should have said volunteering career, but I still, when I say personnel, I think of everybody. It's tough
Whether
if you separate.
they're paid or
Yeah.
volunteer, yeah.
But that's one of the things that I have always tried to do was, and it's harder now because we got more, we actually got more paid staff now than we do volunteer.
Right.
But you know, you try to treat them the same, as many avenues as you can, and do things likewise, as many avenues as you can, but you can't always, because I always felt like if you had a separation, you create us and them, and then you can't get them
You're talking about the separation between volunteers
in
and
career, yeah.
yeah. You know, I think it's just a different situation. It's, so your paid personnel have chosen this as their profession, and this is their primary focus. So volunteers, I mean, they are precious, as you well know, because they come sometimes, you know, in the most inconvenient of times, and they don't get paid for it. But in reality, your relationship is probably different because you spend more time with your paid personnel. You know, they are part of your team that you can count on. The nature of volunteering is that I will be there when I can, but I'm a volunteer.
You know, and like I said, we've been very fortunate from day one when we got to really hiring in our staff. I would tell the staff, we're gonna be one as long as we can. We're not gonna be the one that drives the wedge between us. It will have to be, we work our way out of it because we get so busy. I mean, you know, we ran 1,060 calls last year. That's with minus, I'll say probably 250 additional calls that we weren't dispatched on because of the way Rockingham County EMS and Guilford County EMS changed some COVID protocol stuff. So, I mean, you know, we're just getting busier and busier.
Is that, are you setting records consistently every year for the number of calls, or there?
It can't, like, we were up one year and then we were down a few calls. Then this year we were up, you know. And then, like I said, the month of July, we were at 88. You know, if you do that, it's gonna put us right back on the same number.
You know, how bad a spring you have, do you get a lot of storms and things like that? So,
And on that note, so in those situations, not only are you going out and helping rescue people, but you're going out and like cutting trees and getting them out of the roadway.
we do.
Which is, it's always interesting to me, so I will read on social media, why didn't the town send somebody to cut down this tree? And I will always get it back and respond, you know, when you saw those firefighters there?
The interesting part of that is, and it's always been one of those questions, so if it's your property and it falls,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
whose responsibility
yeah.
is it? Is it yours? Is your tree, or is it the state's because it's in the right of way? We cut it because if you have an emergency beyond it,
You just gotta get the road
we're gonna,
clear.
we're gonna get the road
Yeah,
clear.
yeah. You're not out there just to help people with their landscape.
So if somebody else benefits from us trying to
Yeah.
make sure, okay, so
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah,
benefits.
I get
You know,
it.
no big deal.
And you're not standing there debating about whose tree
No.
fell on what property. It's in the road. You gotta clear it.
Exactly, it's
Yeah.
what happens beyond that, you know, if
That
Patty
never
Stokes or one
matters.
of her family members has a medical emergency or a fire or something like that and they need us, we don't have time to sit there and cut a tree out of the road that we know about. Go ahead and cut it. Sometimes they're so big we can only cut one lane, but that's.
But at
better
least you
than-
get one, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, you know, and I think that's a lot of the small community atmosphere and everything that we still have, you know, like the cities, they have field services, so they call crews in to do it, you know, the fire departments don't have to do that, but out here, you know, it's still a part of the small town, small community things that you do, for lack of better words. You know,
It used to be the, going up in the tree after the cat.
never done that,
Yeah.
never done that.
I don't know that that happens anymore.
We get calls for them, and I tell everybody, I said, everything will be fine. And they said, well, how do you know? I said, do me a favor. Take a walk out through the woods and tell me how many cat skeletons you see in the tree. They'll all come down.
Do you tell
They
them?
will come down. When they get hungry enough, they'll come down. But you know, you stop and think about it. A lot of times, we don't have a ladder, but what are you gonna do if you're up there on a ladder and you're trying to get a cat and that cat goes to scratching you or gets on your face and you fall off of a ladder or something like that? So we refer them a lot of times to animal control to see if they got folks that. can
Oh,
come
Lordy,
help
in
them. So,
reality, that's hopeless if you're out in the county.
Yeah.
That cat's gonna starve to death before they get out.
No, he'll come down.
He'll come
How
down.
much time do you spend in the woods? Have you ever seen a cat skeleton in a
I'm
tree?
gonna start looking. When I'm in the woods, I'm gonna start looking for
She'll
skeletons.
think about it. You know, Todd said something to me one night. Now.
I'm gonna make it my mission to find one.
No, don't do
No,
that.
I
That'd be
don't.
horrible.
No skeletons of any kind.
Oh, my goodness.
So you guys, you just had your annual meeting, right? Yeah, so, anything, did you get any
I'm
new
into
board
the new
members,
coffee.
or did
Huh?
you vote in the?
No, so what we done was, we've changed the way we vote. We broke it up, do 4, 4, and 4 now instead of 6 and 6.
Oh, okay.
We hired a
Have
company
y'all
called,
tried the new
Management
coffee
Solutions
shop
for
that's opened
Emergency
up right here?
Services. They got a couple of attorneys and they help you with HR stuff and all like that.
Okay.
And just was so much going on.
Well, they also have smoothies. They also have
like
smoothies and
our
other,
articles
so it's not only
of
coffee.
incorporation of the state.
And they have
Still
smoothies
had the
and
old
other
address
stuff. You
on
just have
and
to
they
look
hadn't
on
been
their,
open since like 1993 or something like that.
website,
1997.
Rude Awakening, have the menu listed.
So we went in
you know, show you what all
and
they
we
have.
changed, we worked with him, there were some things we had to change, we just updated a lot of general information and he sends them back to the
Yep.
state for restatement and all. And of course, they sign off on them and send them back in if everything matches up, so, you know, we done that. Some of their bylaws, they had to update because it still was all predominantly volunteer. Yeah, see, they had never went in there and taken that part of it out. There were some positions now that we kind of streamlined, we didn't need them anymore. So,
It's probably good to update those things at least every maybe 5 years, or at least review them. At
yes,
least
yes,
look at
they
them.
need to be reviewed, and going into the future, you know, there's just, there were a lot of things, the bylaws for the board was one of the biggest ones, was for them to get some of their stuff.
So do your board members then serve 3-year terms? And then there's, and then
So,
4 are voted
yeah,
on one
yeah,
year,
four,
then the
four,
next, the
and four,
next?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So they're looking at doing, and a lot of these are things that other people are doing that are best practices. You know, they done some things like, if you're a career person, you can't serve on the board of directors because you'd have to abstain from voting on anything that
Lots of
dealt with you.
conflicts.
Yeah, so, you know, they just cleaned up a lot of stuff like that.
Well, did you, please tell me I didn't miss any raucous activity? Did you have any big fights?
No,
Did any?
no, actually, please. I hope those years are forever gone.
Huh,
Yeah.
You've had those though. I'm
Yes,
assuming every,
yes.
I don't know if every department has, well, I know certainly in Oak Ridge, they've had drama in
Yeah,
previous years.
we were very fortunate. I
And
mean,
coups,
it,
yikes.
So we were
Yeah.
very fortunate in the fact that, you know, everything went smooth.
Good.
And
No citizens protested every budget.
ask me that again.
Protested, did you have anybody who came and
No, we did not.
okay. And even, did they even comment on it, or, do you have any citizens come to your board meetings?
Sure, I mean, you know, I think that
I mean, people besides,
I will
Family members.
probably get stopped more on the street and ask about things.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and I tell them, hey, you know, here's the deal. If you wanna know, come, we're audited every year, you know, and we've got a policy where if you wanna come take a look at our audit, you know, we'll open the books up, you can sit down there in a room, you can take a look at them.
would you have to, you don't have to follow the rules of public records, right?
We don't, we
Okay.
try to.
Okay, yeah, I'm not, I
Yeah.
can see
Yeah.
why you would do it,
Yeah.
but you're not required, because you're a
Yeah.
nonprofit, right?
And that's a part of our county. See, we got a contract with the county, and that's a part of it. They want us to follow that, you know. So we do. Sometimes,
But you don't have anybody like a Gail Dunham in Summerfield who
no.
wants to come and,
no.
I mean, not, I mean,
The biggest complaint I got this year, you're gonna die laughing at.
I don't know what it
So I
is.
got an email from a guy. And if you look at our website, it says Stokesdale Fire Department up there. And then the sign right below it says Stokesdale Fire District, big. His complaint was you need to change the heading on your website. It's not the Stokesdale Fire Department, it's the Stokesdale Fire District.
Actually, while I never would have presented it as a complaint, I do, try to be accurate about those kinds of details. And I was writing something recently, and I was like, now it's fire district, right?
Yeah.
But then I went to your website, and it said fire department. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go with fire department, because everybody calls it fire
They do.
department. But technically,
Our legal
it's-
name is Inc.
it's Summerfield Fire District, even though we call it.
Now, some are departments, some are listed.
Right,
'cause I
right,
think-
but in this case, you're a district.
Yeah, we're a
And-
District Inc.,
and-
and that's because of the two county.
Right, and Summerfield the same way.
And I think
Yeah.
that that's probably what prompted that, and I'm thinking, okay, so it was just, you know, if you go to our website, it's kinda got the big bright and orange fire department. I think it's just an eye catcher, but if you go right below it, right there's a sign that says Stokesdale Fire District Inc. And, you know, I said, hey, and we're getting ready to redo our website anyway, so I'm like, you know, if they call, I say, look, sorry, just look below it, you know,
Things like that.
if that's all I have to worry about.
Right,
Golly,
right.
Pete,
And I'm always taken aback at, wow, that's a fair enough observation, but why does somebody have to be so adversarial? But why can't they just say, hey, man, I was just wondering, you're the district, right? Or you might want to change your website. Why do people have to be combative? Hey, Bobby.
Hey, how you, Patty?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
That's good, that's good.
Good. So are you at the Bojangles in Oak Ridge?
I am,
Okay,
I am.
okay. I've had some discussions with some people lately about, well, I'm sure it happens in high school, but the particular parents that I've talked to have middle schoolers, and they were just saying what a shock it is to go from the local elementary school to middle school, and the very, very, very hard discussions they've had to have with their kids about things that they hadn't quite prepared for. But I mean, they did, and they had their, and they weren't in a threatening situation like your friend, but it was more just the behavior of 11-year-old boys.
One time.
Huh?
I got threatened one time.
In middle
Person
school?
disappeared, they didn't bother me. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
Kids are brutal this day. People are brutal.
They are brutal, and they are exposed to so much that is wicked for 10 and 11-year-old kids. For an adult, I wouldn't want to, I would not partake in some of the things that they're exposed to on the internet, but they, it is.
I hope everybody ain't on there watching us, listening to us.
I think that is.
But it's just what it is that this girl, her mother works at Bojangles, and her dog, I forget what school she was going to. Anyway, she was, these girls.
I didn't say anything bad, it can't be erased.
And I mean, she even got threatened, and the girl said she's gonna stab her. And so she, I mean, when she was talking about this, and see, now she's having to change, now she's having to move to a different school. And I was like, it really hit, I was like, wow, I was like, when I was in high school back when I went to Northwest, we didn't have cell phones back then. And if we got bullied, we actually, make physical, like, say, when number hit you in the face or something like that. We didn't have to, we dealt with it. We, either we had a fight with them and they backed off and left us alone, or, or something, or they went, someone told them about, that's one dealt with it that way too. But I mean, back then, we didn't have cell phones. And we didn't worry about people coming into the school and start shooting up the place. That, because Northwest, I think about it now, I think about how Northwest was out there in the country, and I think about what if something like would have happened when I was in school? Like someone got bullied and they was like, because Columbine happened 10 years after I graduated. And so I think to myself, I felt like I was lucky because you never thought about something like, oh, well, I said something mean to this kid, he ain't gonna do nothing about it. And yet, what happened at Columbine? Those two boys, they got bullied, and then they go and come walk into school, and they started shooting up the place and throwing those little, now it was pipe bombs, and those kind of things like that. But yeah, and I mean, now it's just gotten to where now it's cell phones, and these kids are just, we just don't know what someone's gonna say about somebody, They say, oh, if the girl's like, oh, she's doing so great, or the teacher says, well, oh, you're doing so good in class, and the girls go like, they'll get jealous and start saying, oh, well, she's being a suck up or something. And then when the person that's the target of these cyberbullies sees this or hears about it from somebody else that's in school, their feelings might get hurt. They're gonna feel like, oh, I'm being bullied. And it's by all this by seeing this on the cell phone. So it just needs to be dealt with. Those kids don't need to be at school because I mean, I felt bad for her mom when she goes, oh, well, they threatened to say that they were gonna stab her, they were gonna come into school and they just stab her. And I'm like, kids shouldn't have to feel scared when they're going to a school or a classroom. Well, see, your mom,
When you go kids become behavior, the real is a home situation. Trying to go from the outside in and say, how are we gonna fix this? Well, how do you fix parents who would allow their children to have online So what children do you have? You have. Okay, okay. Your grandsons, okay. Okay. Oh, wow. I can tell you, okay, yeah. I can tell you some stories about them. They're good kids, but when they were growing up there in the Christian church, sometimes, I guess Ashley will bring them sometime. This is when they were young. Choose buttons. But if mama or daddy, either one of them are really eyesight, the water looks good. I said that backwards. They were like, I mean, they started crying, but I was like, them poor kids. And then, of course, when I'm had to come back for an eyesight, calm down. As juniors or sophomores? Oh, they'll be freshmen. So, well, what was that experience like? It's had to be like hospital corners. My daddy was like that too. It gave him discipline. Because see, my daddy was an officer too, and they taught him how to fold the bed, pick the bed up, like those hospital corners. I mean, they probably give their best shot, and of course, the lesson is intended to go far beyond. Doing what doesn't seem important. And so So make your bed. It's a book. Well, yes, and then there's a book that follows up his commencement speech. And I got several copies of that for kids who are in high school, a couple years ago when it came in front of me. And I read it, and I thought it was very, very helpful. It's called Make Your Bed. Make your bed. If you're interested, I'll bring you a copy. I have a couple of extra copies. It's really good. There's a Navy SEAL, which is just incredible to me what it takes to be a Navy SEAL. I can't even imagine. But it's all about the discipline and the things that you learn when you teach it to the smallest things.
Cause see, my dad had learned how to iron his dress pants. Iron dress pants, that cross on his thing. When you done, I guess I'm
So when you were in law enforcement? I see. Yep. Oh, wow. They're gonna find something, some reason that you needed to do push-ups. Oh, I bet. I'm sure you built up your endurance, so you didn't have like.
Oh, I make it 60 miles.
Well, when you read about, and I haven't read very much about Navy SEALs, just a little bit. My husband has read a couple of books written by Navy SEALs, but I think it was addressed in that book that he read. He talked about how they would have to go down to the ocean, get out wet, roll around in the sand, and then go run for miles with a backpack on gritty sand. Hot, gritty sand with a backpack, wet. Yeah. So. Takes very little. Yeah, you don't regret it. He is so
That's your exit. That's right. That's the only way. You attend every one of those. And it's every other Thursday.
This is the dream and you.
There's got a sign that you were there.
I get to see Robin laughing.
So get courtesy and check yourself.
Yeah.
Robin's like, perfect.
Let me tell you something. Rob's going to say,
Say this.
here's the cost.
won't be need to set 227. You gotta take me to Raleigh to get to Florida. To get some Brian and good, he's not going, he's just gotta take me to Raleigh. My flight leaves at 7:06 p.m.
That's an act of love, isn't it?
I'm sorry, what? He tried doing that one time, what was it?
Well, I don't have creases on my shirt, I do, you can, so then this is not a very good example, but I'll remember
We
that.
were going and coming back, he stopped in the rest area, and he couldn't figure out how to do it. But he acted, he was able to talk, Tom was trying to tell him.
So, yeah, so she walked through that
where
with
he
you.
had done the whole Zoom thing, but I remember that. I remember that one. And then he missed a meeting because we were up there. in
Would you
May
have been married very
for
long?
anniversary, and it's like. He missed a meeting for our 35th anniversary, 36th, whatever it was. I said, he says, as long as we're not voting on anything important.
She was the
If
same.
it's something important, he said, we're gonna have to go.
In more ways than one.
And she decided to come back. I said, I better not say that.
I was gonna say that would be hard. How would you feel if one of your grandsons were based on just how we were?
They just look at it and go, well, obviously, it's a no big deal.
Mr. Attorney?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. He ain't from New York City, we know that to be a fact.
Ordinances, we got some degrees.
Yeah. You got a vendor policy.
Thanks, Todd.
You're not staying for the action?
He is lost already.
Everything you need to know is right here.
Call to order back in open session.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we go back into open session.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Now let's open it up.
If you would give me maybe 10 seconds to
You
type
got
out
it.
a motion. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to promote town employee Priscilla Hunsucker from deputy clerk to water system customer service manager with a pay increase going from $19.19 per hour to $21.40 per hour.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. Do we have any council comments?
Just wanted to remind everyone that school is beginning. School buses will be traveling the roads. Be safe. Take time to let them get on and off the bus. have a lot of new drivers out here and, on the buses. So there will be some complications with routes and just as citizens, and our schools are already overcrowded, so just take a few extra minutes when you're driving around the schools.
I'd like to thank Karen and Ms. Dalton for staying with us tonight. Also thank council and staff. Want to congratulate Priscilla on her promotion. I've very much enjoyed working with her in my 2.5 years here. She's most certainly earned it. She's a fantastic employee, and the water system customer service manager, I mean, that's right up her alley. She's going to shine in this role. So I certainly congratulate Priscilla for on this promotion. That's all I have. Have a good evening.
Mr. Landrith,
I don't have anything, thank you.
Mr. Jones.
I'd like to thank our 2 citizens that are still here at 15 minutes till 10. I appreciate y'all's dedication. Thank the staff. And one thing that I'd like to note is the passing of Shorty Wilson over in Summerfield. He passed in the early hours of last Saturday morning. And as far as I'm concerned, he was a local icon in Summerfield. We would be hard pressed to have had a better neighbor. His store served as a gathering place, at times a place where charity was dispensed, and it was a landmark in the community for as long as he ran it. And I think he amounts to the last great country store proprietor is gone. So I'd like to acknowledge him.
Tim, do you mind if I add on to that a little bit?
Go right ahead, Mr.
You know,
Ford.
growing up in Summerfield, your assessment that Mr. Wilson being an icon is absolutely correct. My wife and I were discussing his passing earlier this week, and you know, she grew up on Carlson Dairy Road, you know, not too far from his store, and she was just reminiscing on the time she was finally able to walk to the store and buy a candy bar from him, and what a bright sight he was to see. So definitely a Summerfield icon, and you know, may he rest easy in peace.
I'd just like to reiterate what Tim and Derek both have said. Oddly enough, it was some conversation many years ago about my buying that location myself as a convenience store operator. But yes, quite a gentleman, quite a gentleman. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
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 What's this store at?
Yeah, right there.
And Pleasant Ridge Road.
Oh, okay.
Lewiston
Yeah,
comes together.
Okay.
The mountains for you?
Say that?
I've never been in
Oh,
there,
yes.
but-
Oh, yes, me
Huh?
too.
Oh, yeah, Counselor, I'm ahead of you a few years, I suspect.
Not many,
so I-
1, maybe 2.
Okay, we'll keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it at that. I have all the memories that you have of those shows, and then maybe a few more years or. Yep.
Hey, Miss Dawn. What's going on? Good to see you.
Oh, the one you backed out. No, what? Yes, that is.
My wife reminds me of that.
He wasn't counting on.
Starting to get older, it's harder and harder.
I just don't like, if we used to run this whole town.
Better do something quick.
Get as much.
You know, I don't appreciate putting this